The last time you rode something popular at Disney World, the sign out front probably promised a longer wait than you actually got. You scanned in at a posted 45 minutes and stepped off the ride about 30 minutes later. It felt like a small win, like you'd timed it right or caught a lucky break. You were meant to feel that way. Disney has padded its posted wait times for decades, and the logic is simple. A guest who beats the estimate leaves happy, and a guest who waits longer than promised leaves annoyed. So the numbers lean high on purpose. That padding is the friendly version of the tactic. There's a sharper one. Disney also inflates the posted wait to move you around. Push the number up on a ride near closing, and fewer people join the line, so the park empties faster. And now that skipping the line costs money, a bloated standby time does something even more useful. It makes the paid lightning lane look like it's worth every dollar. The busier that sign says the free line is, the stronger the case for buying your way past it. Once you notice the sign is a tool, the rest of the park starts to look different. Look at the attendance. Disney World is not selling more tickets than it used to. Fewer people pass through the turnstiles today than did before 2020. Magic Kingdom, the most visited theme park on Earth, has spent the last few years running below its pre-pandemic peaks. And yet, anyone who has walked down Main Street on an ordinary Tuesday will tell you the place feels more crowded than they ever remember it being. Fewer guests, worse crowds. That combination is the whole mystery. And the answer to it is no accident. The crowding is a product decision, made on purpose, quarter after quarter, by people managing the parks for something other than your afternoon. The wait time sign is just the first and smallest example of a park engineered down to the square foot around revenue first and your afternoon second. To see how that engineering works, go back to 2020, when the parks reopened behind a reservation system. If you wanted in, day ticket or annual pass, you booked a date first. Disney sold it as a safety measure for a phased reopening. Years later, the requirement loosened for most ticket types, but the machinery underneath never went anywhere. Every date-based ticket still tells Disney precisely when you plan to show up. That single change handed the company something it had never fully had: an accurate head count for tomorrow. For decades, Disney estimated attendance using ticket sales, hotel occupancy, dining reservations, and a lot of institutional memory. Good estimates, but estimates. The reservation data replaced the guessing with a forecast, and a forecast is a scheduling tool. A forecast lets you do one specific thing: staff to the number. If the data says tomorrow will be quiet, you run the park as though it will be quiet. Fewer ride vehicles on the track, one loading station instead of two, fewer buses in rotation, fewer registers open, fewer custodians pushing brooms. Under the old arrangement, management looked at the calendar, saw a random Tuesday in September, and staffed for a decent crowd because they couldn't be sure. If fewer people turned up, the company ate the cost and the guests got a gift: a half-full park, near walk-on rides, cast members with a minute to chat. That slow day was waste in accounting terms. The reservation system erased the uncertainty that made the gift possible. Disney's own leadership has been fairly open about the logic. Bob Chapek, during his run as CEO, described the reservation system to investors as central to the company's yield management strategy. Yield management is a real and specific term. It means squeezing the most revenue out of a fixed, perishable supply by reading demand and adjusting price and capacity to match. Airlines live by it, so do hotels. A plane has a set number of seats, and each one becomes worthless the second the doors close, so carriers move prices constantly, consolidate weak flights, and swap in smaller aircraft when demand sags. Disney now runs its parks on the same principle. The goal is simple: pay for exactly as much park as the forecast says you'll use, and not one shift more. Staffing is only half the story. The other half is poured into the concrete. Walk the parks and count how much square footage has stopped holding people. For years, the workhorses of a Disney park were the long, dark, high-capacity rides. The Great Movie Ride at what's now Hollywood Studios ran about 22 minutes and moved somewhere around 2,000 guests an hour. Do that math, and the building kept tens of thousands of guest minutes tied up every hour. Tens of thousands of minutes of people sitting in air conditioning, watching a show, standing nowhere near a walkway. Its replacement, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, is a better ride by most accounts and a bigger draw. It also runs about 4 minutes, roughly the same hourly throughput, a fraction of the holding power. Every hour, the swap pushed the equivalent of tens of thousands of guest minutes back out into the streets. Epcot tells the same story. The Universe of Energy occupied a huge pavilion for a 45-minute ride. It was tired and half empty by the end. Fair enough. What replaced it, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, is a 3-minute roller coaster and a genuine blockbuster. The coaster is wildly popular. It just doesn't hold anyone. A ride that once absorbed a crowd for the better part of an hour now absorbs them by making them wait in a physical queue or, for its first couple of years, in a virtual one you had to fight for on your phone. Some of that square footage stopped holding anyone at all. In Tomorrowland, the building that housed Stitch's Great Escape has sat dark for years. 2 large theaters that once cycled hundreds of guests an hour, now doing nothing. Over at Epcot, the Wonders of Life Pavilion, a whole domed building that used to run 2 attractions, spent most of the last decade as an occasional event space and a walk past. Every seat that goes cold is a group of people who could have been inside for 20 minutes and are instead back out on the pavement with you. There's a subtler version of the same move, and urban planners have a name for it: induced demand. When Magic Kingdom clears Tom Sawyer Island and part of the rivers of America to build a Cars Land, or Animal Kingdom paves over Dino Land for a Tropical Americas, the new attraction is a headliner by design. Nobody was fighting crowds on Tom Sawyer Island. That was the point of it. Those sleepy corners were pressure valves, low-demand places where you could peel off, sit down, and let the density drop for a while. Replace a pressure valve with a blockbuster, and a fresh wave of people arrives specifically for it. When they finish the ride, they don't disappear. They spill into the walkways and inflate the wait times for everything nearby. The park gains a new marquee and loses one of the few places that used to soak up a crowd instead of concentrating it. The cheapest crowd control Disney ever had was the stuff with no line at all. Magic Kingdom used to run an interactive game, Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, that sent guests hunting around the land with spell cards. There was a shooting arcade in Frontierland. Epcot had a Phineas and Ferb game strung across the World Showcase. None of it had a queue. All of it could soak up thousands of people for hours at a time, spread thin and out of everyone's way. One by one, those went away, and mostly nothing took their place. Each closure funneled its crowd back toward the rides that were still running. While the inside of the parks was losing its capacity to hold people, Disney kept adding people. Almost all the new construction on property over the last decade has been rooms, and specifically, expensive rooms. Deluxe hotels and Disney Vacation Club towers. DVC is the timeshare program, and it fills those rooms with return guests who stay longer and come back more often. The Grand Floridian Tower, the Riviera, the new Polynesian Tower, the Lakeshore Lodge. More beds means more bodies on the buses every morning, and a guest who bought into a 2-week timeshare stay is a guest concentrated on property for 2 weeks. The roads and the fleets did not grow to match. Some resorts that used to get their own bus route now share one. Pay the premium for the Grand Floridian, and you may find yourself on a bus that also serves the Polynesian and its new DVC tower. The internal road network was laid down for the original resorts, and was never widened for the towers stacked on top of them. The Skyliner, the gondola line that opened in 2019, genuinely helped, linking some of the densest resorts to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. But it arrived as a replacement for buses rather than an addition to them, so the bus service on those routes shrank when it came online. And a gondola has a weakness a bus doesn't. It stops running in high wind and shuts down for lightning, which in a Florida summer happens almost daily. When the Skyliner goes down, thousands of guests pour back toward bus stops that are no longer staffed or scheduled to catch them. For the guest who would rather not gamble on a 45-minute bus wait, Disney offers a fix: the minivan, a private car you can summon through the app for somewhere north of $50 a trip. The company thinned the free transportation, then sold you the cure for the shortage it created. There's a pattern worth naming here because it repeats everywhere. Wherever Disney cut a service, it handed the missing work to you, and often charged for the privilege. Mobile order is the clearest example. Walk up to a counter service restaurant now, and the registers are frequently dark. The staff that used to take your order is mostly gone because you are the cashier now. You pull out the app, build the order, pay, and manage your own pickup window. Brilliant for the labor budget. Less brilliant on the ground because you often can't even walk in until your food is ready. So a knot of people forms outside every quick service door, staring at phones and blocking the path while they wait for a notification. Ride queues went digital too. The old free fast pass is gone, and in its place is Lightning Lane, which you pay for. It's also why a standby line can sit dead still for minutes at a stretch, even when it looks short. When you're standing still, you're usually watching a merge, a wave of paying guests being fed in ahead of you. The ratio favors them heavily. For every standby guest let through, a stack of Lightning Lane guests can go first, which is why a line with barely anyone in it can still crawl. The crawl is deliberate, throttled to keep the paid lane moving, the same instinct behind the padded number on the sign out front. That reshapes how people move through the park. The only way to stay ahead of the crowd is to work the app, so guests spend the day heads down, thumbs refreshing, hunting the next Lightning Lane window, or virtual queue drop, or mobile order slot. People stop walking mid-path to stare at a screen. The flow gets gummy and unpredictable. A place tuned down to the square foot for efficiency ends up full of people who aren't looking where they're going. Step back far enough and every one of these decisions rhymes, because they all serve the same change in who Disney wants coming through the gate. The company has said the quiet part out loud more than once. On an earnings call, executives once described an unfavorable attendance mix at Disneyland, meaning too many annual pass holders. To you and me, a park full of locals who love the place enough to visit every week sounds like a triumph. To Disney, it's a problem, because those guests already own the pass, sleep at home, and don't book a room or load up on merchandise. Around the same stretch, the company's finance chief told investors, plainly, that Disney's core customer sits in the higher income brackets, and those customers were holding up fine. That's the whole strategy in a sentence. The entire experience is being tuned for guests who never found the price to be the problem. Everyone else is being gently priced out, and that's the design doing exactly what it was built to do. And the reason Disney can get away with all of it is that the guests it actually cares about barely feel it. Buy the Lightning Lanes, take the minivan, stay deluxe, order ahead without blinking at the total, and the friction thins to almost nothing. The engineered crowd is something you run into mainly if you're trying to do Disney on a budget. The premium guest floats over the top of it. You can watch the swap happen inside a single perk. Extra magic hours used to be the great leveler. Stay anywhere on property, the $1,000 suite or the $100 value room, and you got the same reward. Extra time in the park after everyone else went home. That's gone. In its place is a tiered system. Every resort guest now gets a 30-minute head start in the morning, which is something. But the genuinely valuable perk, the extended evening hours when the park empties out and the lines shrink to nothing, belongs only to guests at the deluxe resorts. A benefit that used to come with any room got moved behind the most expensive doors on property. The same logic explains the bars. Notice how many have opened lately. Magic Kingdom stayed dry for nearly 40 years and now pours alcohol at every table service restaurant and runs a dedicated lounge of its own. A snack cart in Toy Story Land will sell you a cocktail. There's a reason, and it's on the balance sheet. Liquor carries the fattest margin on any menu, often around 80%. A ride costs a fortune to build, a fortune to run, and returns nothing per hour on its own. A cocktail costs a couple of dollars, sells for $16, and keeps a guest parked in a lounge seat for the better part of an hour. From a revenue per square foot view, a bar beats a ride every time, and you can drop one almost anywhere there's a gap. Hence the slow adultification of the parks. Fewer street performers and free spectacle, more lounges, more hard-ticket evening events built around drinking for a grown-up crowd. There's one more force in the mix, and this one Disney didn't fully engineer. Some of it is on us. We visit differently than we did 10 years ago. Back then, a park day had slack in it. You wandered into a shop, found a snack, changed your mind, doubled back. Now the trip arrives pre-planned. Before a family sets foot on property, they've watched hours of video telling them the exact snack, the exact ride order, the exact photo spot. So thousands of people don't fan out across 100 options. They funnel toward the same short list of things a creator told them they had to do. You can measure it in the lines for specific objects. A few years back, people queued the better part of a day for a Figment popcorn bucket. Plenty of them genuinely wanted it. Nobody's afternoon was actually improved by a 7-hour wait for a plastic bucket. And yet the wait existed, manufactured almost entirely by a feed. Gideon's Bakehouse sells a genuinely good cookie, and a virtual queue hours long to reach it. The cookie did not get better. The thumbnails telling you to try it multiplied. Meanwhile, a dozen perfectly good, unhyped options sit half-used down the path. And the people making that content have every reason to sell you a version of the day that doesn't quite exist. To keep the invites, the media access, and the algorithm's favor, a lot of creators sell the best day ever. They post the perfect cocktail in the perfectly lit lounge, and cut the 45 sweating minutes it took to get the seat. They frame the empty corner and the front row ride, and leave out the wall of humidity and bodies just outside the shot. Then a family that saved for 2 years arrives expecting exactly that, and runs headfirst into the yield-managed reality instead. The gap between the brochure and the actual Tuesday is what makes the crowding feel unbearable, because now it feels like a betrayal stacked on top of a weight. For Disney, all of it is free advertising. For the creators, it pays. For the family in the 90-minute line for a ride the internet promised was a walk-on, it's just one more thing making the day harder. So the parks feel packed for reasons that have almost nothing to do with how many people bought a ticket. Disney spent the last several years learning exactly how many guests would arrive, then shrinking the park to fit that number as tightly as it could. Fewer staff, shorter rides, closed buildings, thinner bus service, digital lines that reward whoever pays, and a steady tilt toward the wealthier guest who makes the whole model profitable. Every one of those moves is rational on a spreadsheet. Stacked together, they produce a park that holds fewer people and holds them worse. None of this means you can't still have a great day. You can, and plenty of people do. Some of the pandemic-era cuts are slowly being undone, and a few of the new headliners really are worth the trip. But the crowding won't ease in any real way until the incentive changes. And right now, the incentive rewards the shareholder ahead of the guest standing under a wait time sign padded to look worse than it is. Until that flips, the math holds, and so do the crowds.